done a few different podcasts.
Well, you've done at least one more. I know that much because I had you on the Buffalo Effect.
That was so much fun.
Yeah. That was in 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So that was what, right after Marshall, right before we did Wolf Boy.
That was 8 years ago?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Whoa. Okay.
That was a lot of fun though.
That was fun. Yeah. There was like 3 hosts and
it was you, Bill.
Yeah.
Jordan.
Michelle Levitt.
Yes.
Michelle Miller Levitt. And it was
John.
Yes.
John Celia.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. You guys got me amped that day and I'm like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
And then you go, we're done. And you're never going to see the world. No one ever got to hear that podcast, ever.
Well, wait a minute. It got released.
I don't think it did.
It definitely did.
I'm telling you, I swore
100%.
it didn't. And I was sent in a file from you like 3 years later.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So it was released.
Okay.
And it did like that podcast did really well. Not that this doesn't, but please, we need more subscribers and followers and listeners. So and downloads, guys. We need downloads. Anyway, that had like from the gate, it was like at least 1,000 downloads an episode.
That's crazy.
That was crazy because we had partnered with Buffalo News, Buffalo Rising, like everyone wanted to hear a podcast about Buffalo.
Yeah.
No. And it was popular right away. And
no, it was a fun time. You should get Bill back on here.
Yes, Bill Patterson. He was one of the guests.
Oh yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He did come on here.
Yeah. Bill Patterson, our beloved director, comedian, sometimes actor, producer, writer, an all-around goofy guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You want a quick story about Bill before we actually talk?
Come on.
So he's been kind of like a semi-mentor to me, for a little bit throughout the years, and something
I'm
that
sorry.
I've worked at. I know, isn't it?
God.
And
that explains a lot,
right? No, where like I worked on as his first assistant director for a lot of the stuff that he did, and throughout the years, he's just slowly kind of was like, here, like I share ideas and like let's have conversations about direction and acting with the actors, and just kind of always I would go in for meetings to kind of pitch him some ideas and reflect on things.
He was super collaborative.
Yes, and that was a great thing to have, that openness.
It's refreshing.
And it's super refreshing. And it then came to the point, the one day I got a phone call and said, hey, come on in and have a meeting with me. And I walked in and
he said, I'm sorry to have to let you go.
Yeah, right. And my friend Nikki Salandis House was also in there, and Stiliandes, sorry, I always say it wrong. And she was there, and he looked at both of us and said, you two should become a production company and become a producer and director team. Like, yeah. I've worked with you here. I've worked with you here. To me, it just makes sense that the two of you just start, directing and producing and making the stuff, because you guys could create magic. And so we listened to the son of a bitch and created Giant Monster Productions. And we are currently, we have one produced commercial under our belt.
Very cool.
And ready to just keep rolling.
Was it the produced commercial that I may or may not have seen?
Yes, it is.
Right before we hit record?
Yes.
Because that was amazing.
So, thank you. Honestly, I'm really happy with how it went.
It was what it needed to be.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was, that was something, and what we're talking about is the Italian Cultural Center of Buffalo, which is actually a little bit, close to my heart, which, one, my heritage, two, I've actually worked with them since the year 2019, and now I've been able to actually give them an anthem type commercial to kind of tell you all about the place. So I pulled a lot of stuff from my life, and that's the best thing, is having them having the collaborative advantage of saying, hey, we're open to your ideas and coming forward with that and putting them on film. And two, like, the best stuff that you create comes from stuff that you know, right? So to me, it was put in as much as you can. And I always like to do that because to me, you never know when the next time you can't tell a story. So when a story shows up,
you have to tell it.
I'm telling everything that I can.
Exactly. You know? And that it was perfect because it really struck a chord with me, being Italian. And you know, the pasta and the family and the wine and the atmosphere and the love,
sense of community, love and tradition.
And you know, growing up, that's all I really knew.
Yeah.
So I thought everybody was like that, you know, because that's like my little world was that. Yeah. And so I just thought everybody else was like that.
Yeah, and then you meet people, you hang out with friends, you date, and then you're like, oh,
there's a whole other world.
This is different, you know?
Yeah. Different cultures, different people, different, you know, attitudes and views. And you learn real quick. But that made what I experienced more special, you know, because it was, you know, it was our home, our little niche, and it wasn't, you know, for everyone in the world. No. But it was special, and watching that brought it back, and I can't wait.
Thank you.
Where you? When is it going to be released?
So I believe that their plan is to have it for the Italian festival. That's
this
coming
summer,
up this summer in July, and they're going to have a big screen in the courtyard. Right on the corner of Hurdle and Delaware, and they're going to show it. Okay. They're going to just have it kind of on loop and kind of, you know, have a presentation of the premiere there.
So by the time this episode of the podcast comes out, it might be right before.
Yes. So leading up to, stop by there and take a look at it. And again, then it's going to be shot everywhere on social media and online, of course. And, you know, and with hopes of getting on broadcast and kind of on that end. Good. So, but edit's done, shooting went well. Rafael Mencia, great friend of mine, was the director of photography on that. And he was something.
He was my DP for a project recently.
Yeah. And he, you know, him and I have been in it together in the beginning since the CCI happened, and actually we're lucky enough to go with them to Italy. Wow. And shoot footage and spend time with them and kind of document things. And that was 2019. And now, this many years later, we were able to deliver something beautiful to them. And, you know, so
that's so cool.
Yeah, all right. It was really exciting. So it felt good. It was a really energetic and special set, and you could just feel it in the bones as soon as you walked on. You know, and I'm happy that I was able to translate it and you can see it vibe through the screen.
Yeah. You could tell the authenticity because, again, I'm Italian and I've lived that. And I know I've seen people try to fake that. Yeah. You know? But this is not that. And I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. I'm just saying, like,
I think really as soon as you, you know, if you're telling something from the heart, you know, and you keep that vision very, you know, close to your heart, you'll see it. It'll come out organically. It's when something doesn't sing to you that you start having trouble with how to tell a story and not seeing a clear vision or not able to answer questions or you know. And filmmaking is all about problem solving. Directing is all about problem solving. Who's the best problem solvers? They're, you know, Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, Quentin Tarantino. You know what I mean? Like, those are the best problem solvers. Yeah, sure. And that's what directing is, you know. And you want to try to really, you know, figure out all those problems that are going to come out beforehand. Yeah. So once you get on set, you either have an answer to it or you've eliminated the amount of problems that could show up.
Of course, yeah.
And you know, that was something going in of like, if I stay true to my vision, if I always, you know, go back to like, this is how I see it and this is how I want it, then it just made everything a little bit more easier on the day. Yeah. And you know, and being able to have, you know, a director of photography who's a very good friend of mine, who we can communicate extremely well, just makes everything 20 times better, because sometimes it just takes a look of looking at Rafi and be like, And he knew it. He knew exactly what I'm thinking, and
exactly.
you know what I mean. It's and the same thing with Nikki as a producer. It's just I've known Nikki since Buff State from 2012, 2011. So it's been more than 10 years of knowing her and working with her, and it makes sense to have these collaborative relationships. And we had a bunch of crew there who either went to Buff State or we grew up together through the television film arts program or just on set. And it was like, now these people who we started off together and low in the bottom of the totem pole, and now like we're all in these bigger positions and have been able to learn and create actually rewarding ourselves with the ability of knowing what we're doing at this point.
And it's great to see everyone grow into these positions because we've known each other for however long. I think you and I were talking about the movie Marshall that we both worked on together, but I'm sure we knew each other before that, right? Because Marshall was when?
Marshall was, the movie came out, check. It was 2015, I believe, is when we shot it. And so Marshall, I was hired as the extras casting director on that film.
Okay.
And that was something where I graduated from Buffalo State in 2013, and I kind of was like, what do I do? I had no clue where to go, what to do.
Especially around Buffalo.
Exactly, in Buffalo. And personally, I just didn't feel ready to like make the move. I didn't feel financially stable to like jump into it and just get my heart torn out in LA or New York. I just didn't have it. But so it was a few of us who kind of graduated and didn't know where to go from it. And my friend Brandon Williams and I just kind of got together and said, well, let's not wait around for an opportunity. Let's just make an opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I wrote the feature film called Dwelling back in 2013. And
I have to stop you right there because you said something that's so poignant and that we've mentioned before, I think, on the podcast. And I've mentioned in my personal life to give as advice to other people. And that is, you have to make your own opportunities. You can't just lie around waiting for someone to hire you. You can't. I don't care if you're an actor and that's all you want to do. You have to go above and beyond if you want to be successful.
Yeah.
Period. Not just in acting, but in life.
Yeah.
Right.
And
you have to create. Yes, you have to create your own opportunities. And you've done that over and over and over again.
It's something that, I think I have it in my bones a little bit to do it. And I really do have to like really thank my parents for just always being acceptive of a creative, you know what I mean?
Very
always
cool.
being like, here's someone who, I've loved movies since I was teeny tiny, and grew up on Universal monster movies and Godzilla and horror movies and I always just felt like I need to be a storyteller.
Yeah.
And when people, ask, what do I do? I always just say I'm a storyteller because in the end, that's what I love to do.
Yeah.
And assist in doing. If I'm working on set or I'm casting, I'm trying to help tell a story and take it from that perspective, right? Yeah. And
it translates to everything that we do too, because everyone I meet, like I want to know their story, that's why I love doing this. I get to talk to all of my friends and get their stories, I mean, we know each other obviously, but we don't sit for an hour straight and shoot the shit this,
get into the deep stuff.
Exactly.
And stuff like that. It's so like for me, it's always, I feel like it's been in my bones to be built that way to go do it. And not that I haven't had those, moments of like doubt and like not knowing what I'm doing. It happens all the time, but that was one of those moments where it was, the fear of, just not see. For me, the filmmaker, all I hear is the sirens outside.
You know what's awesome is because me
they
too.
They wait until there's a podcast and then they decide to come by.
It'll happen 3 or 4 more times. But these microphones, I'm not sponsored by Shure, but they're so fucking good.
He wants
and the EQ. I mean, I got to give myself a little more credit because I've EQ'd them to just bring out the timbre in the person's voice and phase out that background shit. Yeah. Plus, if I do hear it when I'm editing, like I can drop the frequencies and stuff like that, you know.
It's just like filmmaker and me.
Exactly.
It's just sound. Come on, guys, be quiet, quiet, please.
Yeah.
Settle.
Hold for airplane.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Like, it's just weird. But anyway, so like I was saying, like it was one of those things that was like, okay, I need to do something and create and I had a bunch of friends, Joe Blodgett, Matt Fleck, Matthew Nardone, we'd been creating short films for a better part of a year together, doing things, and it was just like, okay, well then let's go make something. So we're like, let's make a feature film. Let's go for it. And I had someone in Brandon Williams who was crazy enough to say, sure, let's go,
Yeah.
And I had a yes man that
called
was
you
like,
out.
let's go for it.
Like,
okay,
come
on. So I wrote it, and we were able to like raise money on Kickstarter, and I think we raised close to $60,000 on Kickstarter, and we were able to, Brandon at the time was an actor and was able to bring in some SAG actors from LA who were like popular on Redbox and were getting those views at the time when it was a thing. And we cast local and tried to find, needles in the haystack and the right thing. And everything kind of came together to make this film called Dwelling that I wrote and directed. Yeah. And it was fantastic. It was an amazing experience, but it was still a learning curve for me because I have directed shorts before, but now here's a feature. And thank God I had all these filmmakers along with me. Matthew Nardone was my DP on it. And it was us learning together and having fun together. And it was telling a horror story that was, again, close to my heart, that I was able to pick from and pull things from stories that my grandfather told me. And, I mean? It was like all these cool little things that
cool.
I made to include. Because, again, like I said before, I don't know when my last story is told. So every story I'm going to try to include. Everything in my life where pick things to push forward.
That's right.
So I did, we told Dwelling, and it was lucky enough to get distribution through a subsidiary of Sony Pictures, and we were able to go on Blu-ray and DVD and Walmart exclusive, and so now it's on Tubi if you want to give it a watch. But that was 10 years. It's 10 years for Dwelling.
Wow.
Which is crazy since we shot it.
Crazy.
So I've talked to the boys, and I think that we're gonna do another
Dwelling 2?
No. I think what we're gonna do is for October. I think we're gonna do another casting Buffalo networking event and show Dwelling and just kind of get some of the band back together and just keep it, everyone come and watch this thing.
Do
and
a Q&A or something.
Exactly. Talk about it and see it again and see it so many years later. Because it was a great time, And from there, I went from directing and writing to I'm going to become a PA. I'm going to learn how to be a production assistant.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the first times we met when you were PAing on one of the Lifetime Christmas movies.
Yeah, I think it was
Christmas in Vermont.
I think. Yeah. Which had been that spring or winter, early winter.
But that wasn't my first one of those.
I was on trial from which that was a summer thing.
Okay, but Trial was Accidental Switch, which was Mother's Revenge.
That's, yeah.
So what we're talking about is the working titles. For people who don't know.
Yeah, of the Hallmark lady thrillers and Christmas movies.
That's right. Yeah, and I think this was an Ion, which is Hallmark. Ion.
It's the same world. Yeah,
and there's a third one.
So like for me, like a lot of like my production assistant days were I got on lucky enough to get on Ninja Turtles when it shot here in Buffalo, and then it was a lot of that. It was a lot of working on when Fred, Olin, Ray came into town and working on those movies and kind of been thrown into the ringer and learning, which I always say, like in the moment I probably absolutely hated it, but looking back
I mean,
I learned so much.
You got paid to learn.
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
And that's something that I always sit there and say, like, sometimes it's worth experiencing things.
Yeah.
Because you're getting paid to learn.
Yeah.
And for me, having that idea of I'm always trying to make an experience and make an opportunity for myself, any sort of that to me is worth taking, is either, and to this day, I'll still take production assistant jobs depending on what I'm, working on or just to experience it.
That's a good point. I mean, and I'm glad you said that. It's not a matter of like you stepping down or doing less or whatever. No. I mean, if you're PA on something like Marshall, I mean, come on, right?
And so like
you work with. I got to meet Ruth Carter. Like,
oh yeah, oh my god,
Oscar-winning, 2-time Oscar-winning, wardrobe
production designer,
and
wardrobe designer. Right. Whatever the title. Yeah, I was gonna say anyways.
Yeah.
She's right behind you. Costume designer Ruth Carter.
Okay.
There we go.
And she won for Black Panther.
And then
both Black Panthers movies.
And what was fun on that is that she was actually applying or auditioned for the first Black Panther while she was doing Marshall.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
this is how good she is. Like, I was just like a lowly extra member of the jury, and she took the time to check out like 3 of my different wardrobes. And like, she was just like, that's how much work and detail that she puts into things.
No, I gotta say, like, she's another one of those people that, I have to thank tremendously because, again, I had PA'd on jobs. I directed a movie, but it wasn't a movie. It was just a story that I wanted to tell.
Top you off?
And yes, please. And then I PA'd on a lot of things, and then I actually did some AD work on smaller things.
Yes.
And then Marshall came into town, and they were looking for an extras casting person. And Rich Wall called me up, who's one of the film commissioners, and said, would you interview for it? And I said, sure. Because to me, in my head, I'm still wanting to direct and tell a story. Mm-hmm. So to have a chance to help with the casting of a story, to me, sounds so much fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And worth it.
Yeah.
So I interviewed. I luckily got the job. And day one, I got hired. And then I walked in and I think Chris Bonjourne, who was the producer on that, walked me into the room with Ruth Carter and said, here, he's never done this before, help him.
Really?
And she's like, okay.
Oh,
like, it was a total,
totally.
Yeah. Her and I had a conversation. We were talking for probably an hour before we even got into, like, actually casting what my job would be.
Well, that's good for her because that's part of it.
Yes, it's part of it. And then she literally grabbed the phone.
Crazy.
She grabbed the phone and we're calling old random casting directors and having them on the spot tell me what to do.
Wow.
Which was crazy to have like someone with that power to be like, no, this is, and then we had an entire conversation of just look, feel, how it would go. And in my head, on that film, it went from I don't want to even though Reginald Hunlin was the director, I wasn't looking to serve the director on that one. Mine was to serve Ruth Carter.
Yeah.
Because her and I just connected on visions.
Sure.
And I felt like if I could make her proud in what I do, then I think we'll mission accomplished at that point, right? Yeah. So, I was very much like took everything to heart that we talked about, and we were in constant communication. And then her entire wardrobe department were people that I've worked with before and became friends with. And it was just, they were all local Buffalo people. And it was more of like, I got your back, you got my back. And it was all the way through. And we never had a problem. Never. Through that entire film.
Problem meaning like
just like
attitudes or
like confrontations or just like
with each other
being on the wrong page
Okay.
or like thinking that this person doesn't fit this or this like it was just constant communication of just like okay, and then making sure that we're delivering the vision, because Harry Lipsitz and I always talk about like the idea of like we still paint a picture when we do background casting, actors casting. Yeah. Like you still have a blank canvas, and it's our job to fill that canvas with the world. Right. So just like with talking to a production designer and talking to a costume designer, like we help paint that picture for them. Yeah. So it's super important to cast background in that sense. And that was the world that I came from, was like, let me help paint.
Right.
And that's what we did for Marshall. There was a lot of care into that. And it was also the first big film in Buffalo in a long time that like everybody came out for.
Yes.
So it was super important, and we were able to then look towards, some of our people got upgraded for speaking parts. We were being tasked to like, where like Ruth or Reggie came to me and said like, hey, look at some of these speaking parts, look at like we liked some of the looks here, where can you use them here, and it was just an amazing experience. And Reggie again was an amazing collaborator, where he trusted what Ruth wanted.
Yes.
So,
and how important is that? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be as successful as Reggie is, Reggie Hudlin, you have to trust your crew.
Yes.
And I mean, who better to trust than Ruth?
Yeah, and he trusted her. I trusted her. Yeah. She trusted me, and she trusted Reggie. So it was to the point that like a lot, depending on the director, and I would say a lot of directors, like to picture pick the background, depending on what the scene is. Sometimes it's just nondescript. Others is we have this person, we need a particular look for this person.
Right.
And this was the first film out the gate that I was doing any of this on, and he was very much just like,
do it.
I trust you guys, do it.
Yeah.
I've heard your conversations. You know what I mean? I've seen you guys work. I've seen what you've done so far the first, within the first few days.
Yes.
Go.
Okay, good.
Good. And I think there was only one scene that like Reggie, like I came to set to show Reggie photos. And beyond that, it was all teams go,
That's great.
And it was fantastic experience. And I don't think I've ever had that much of a rewarding experience since Marshall, because it was just, I think, but Buffalo felt that energy with that film with Marshall.
Yeah, it was huge. It was one of the, other than Turtles, it was one of the biggest movies that's ever come to the area. People are going to be screaming at this saying, what about the natural?
Yeah. But like,
we love The Natural. Also, come on, man. Redford is the GOAT. We get it. But
it was,
trains, planes, and automobiles. We love that as well. Okay. And there's like a whole list, but
but this was a special film. And also the cast that was involved in that.
Yes. Like Kate Hudson, Sterling K. Brown,
James Cromwell.
Legend.
You know what I mean? Josh Gad.
I got such a great interaction with James Cromwell.
He was fantastic.
He was the judge.
Yeah.
I was on the jury, and we would often have to walk in, walk out, walk in, walk out. And we would walk in and out through a pretend...
Yeah.
It was supposed to be like it was a blank wall. It was supposed to be the jury area or back room or something, but there was nothing there, obviously. So movie magic, we walked in, and he just was there, right there, 2 feet away from me, and we would just, in between takes, just shoot the shit. He was amazing.
He was incredible and
so down to earth.
There was
just cracking jokes and everything. And
so the one day we was at, I think
he's
it was
tall as fuck. Holy
right.
Shit. Yeah. He's like 7 feet tall or something.
He was in background holding, and I was having a snack, and he was back there.
I remember this.
And
I took a photo of him talking to Rich Wall. Yeah.
And he would come back and just sit with the background and just eat and talk.
Yeah.
And just like, no, there was no walls. There was no going back to my trailer. There was, this is a movie set. This is our world. We're just living in it.
Yeah.
And he was just sitting there, I think having a sandwich from Daniela. And one of the extras just came up and said, I gotta say to you, I don't know if you get this a lot, but you look exactly like James Cromwell. And he just like took a second, smiled, and looked at her, and was just like,
I get that a lot.
It's because I am.
And it every now and then.
But that entire cast, I mean, and all the stories that came out of it, like Dan Stevens, fantastic. Dan Stevens, he exploded after that movie. Sterling, I'd seen, I think, in The People vs. OJ. And then literally a week later, I heard that he was cast in the movie, and he was phenomenal. And I'm telling you, one of these days that he's going to direct something.
And This Is Us, he was in. I mean,
This Is Us. Huge. During this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, of course, Chadwick. It was an amazing experience to see him and interact with him.
To watch him, because, Reggie gave him a lot of leeway, in that.
Yeah.
And he, he, like a lot of leeway. And I mean, there were points where I was like, he's an actor. Is he allowed to say that?
Yeah.
And I sat back and watched and learned, and got to meet him and talk to him at the after party, and like where he came up to me, where he was crossing my path, and I was like, oh shit, here he comes, starstruck, and he just looks right at me. He's like, hey man, shakes my hand. How's it going? Yeah. I'm like, that's going great, man.
Yeah,
Thanks.
It's crazy what people actually realize and what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we get this idea that like, they're stars.
We put him on a pedestal.
And he was someone who just, I don't think he really he didn't want that pedestal, I don't think, you know what I mean? But like needed to learn how to be on that pedestal. And he was, just fantastic, very, very quiet, very, you know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%.
Genuine human being.
Yes.
And
he would do more listening.
Yes.
Than trying to tell people about himself.
Correct.
Or what to do or anything. And I really noticed that about him, especially at that after party where he was himself, he's Chadwick Boseman, man. Wow. To have met him and then find out later what he was going through at the time.
Well, what was even crazier too is he actually helped out Addison Henderson with another local feature film called Givers of Death.
Yes.
And Addison was his personal assistant on Marshall, and then ended up going with him to LA and becoming a personal trainer for him, and was thrown into Chadwick's world and became a very great friend of his.
Yes.
And Addison came back to write and direct a film in Buffalo, and I was lucky enough to be an assistant director on that film. And the one day Chadwick showed up to set.
Yeah.
And he was there kind of collaborating and teaching and helping actors and having conversations and working with Addison. And here I am ADing in front of him. Like, now I got nervous because I'm like, I hope I'm doing a good job.
Don't fuck up.
And I remember the one time during that day, he was having a conversation with one of the actors, but it was a needed conversation. It was a serious moment. There needed to be like that genuine actor to actor type conversation, and Chadwick, just has learned throughout the years and know things, and so he was kind of giving advice and to this other actor, and I was waiting, but I was Chadwick turned to me and was like, are you waiting on me? And I'm like, yes, but we need to.
Yeah.
This needs to happen.
Yeah.
Because it's also an amazing opportunity for this actor to have this conversation.
God, I can't even imagine.
And for me to witness this conversation, and for you to be here, I will wait.
Yeah.
As an AD. It's one of those things that I never want to wait on anything. I will wait for you because I respect you so much. And finished, came in, nailed the scene.
That's great.
And it was just exactly what we needed for that sense of energy on that day. And then not knowing through this entire time, because this was like maybe a year before, that he was going through that. And it was a heartbreaking day, when we heard about that.
Yeah.
So it's...
I mean, to lose such an amazing talent, an amazing mind. I mean, the more I find out about him and the more that is revealed about him, the more the sadder I get, I guess.
Yeah.
Because his potential.
It's a good soul.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It felt very Heath Ledger when that happened.
Yeah.
Because it was, again, it's a good soul.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic talent.
Yeah.
Gone too soon. And the potential that it could have... One, he rocked everything that he already had done.
Yeah.
But only to know, like, what could have happened.
Yeah.
What he could have brought and the stories he could have told. And, it's just...
It sucks. And so as you know, I work at a local cancer hospital, and I see this all the time.
Yeah.
And my job especially is storyteller, to make sure that I get to tell people stories, and I interview them like this, and we talk, and we create some pretty amazing things for people who want to leave their stories and want to leave their legacies. And it never gets any easier.
No.
I've done over 300 interviews in the past 3 years.
But at the same time, I feel like it's such a rewarding experience to be able to either gift that to a loved one, or to let someone able to give that gift, or
that's why
tell
I keep
their story.
doing it. Yeah.
Like,
and I can't. I not only do I feel a heavy weight, but I feel obligated, and
it's an importance.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I'm doing a purpose.
Yeah. And I often tell people, that I've found my calling. I mean, this is everything that I love to do. I'm a filmmaker. I'm an interviewer. I'm a director. I'm a producer, and I'm a storyteller, and I get to tell stories that are just, fathers and mothers and sons and daughters and grandchildren, and like just everybody, from everybody's point of view. And it really humanizes not only the work that I do, but the world that we live in.
Keeps you humble too, right?
I come home and hug my son tighter and tighter every day, and become really thankful for what I have and the friends that I have, and the family,
a new perspective. And I think it's like anyone who's been close to death in some shape or form, you having the experience and talking to people who are either going through it, or like if you've experienced it close to you. I lost my mom in 2020, and it had nothing to do with COVID. She had lung cancer, and it was a battle, but it changed me, and it changed how I wanted to tell stories, and the meaning behind it, and what I could include, and what from my life I can try to push forward, and it really humbleized my way of living, and my world in general, and how I approach everything in my life. Her and I had a fantastic relationship, and it was one of those things that we didn't leave anything unsaid. And I think, and I struggled with that a little bit, the idea of like, I don't think we had anything else left to say to each other. And like the idea of like, is that true? And it was, you know what I mean? That's
incredible.
You know what I mean? Like it was, but it's to grasp that is just as hard as someone who is probably guilty because they felt like they haven't. You know what I mean? They're like, is that possible? Is there? And now it's kind of shaped into this idea of like, I have to live for her too. Like make sure her stories are told, and make sure who she was is spread. And, but then in my life, make sure that I'm living to the best of my days, for her and for me, ultimately. So that's, like those type of stories and telling that forward, it's like, I really am, I want to say proud of you, honestly, to be able to be put yourself. Me? Yes, because being able to do that, it is a sense of responsibility to do that. I
do feel very responsible. I'm like the keeper of the stories.
Yeah, right.
The keeper of the legacies.
Yeah.
And I've even reached out to you for help on some projects and stuff. And you've given me the right person to go to and use and stuff. And that's like I mentioned before, we used Rafi and Jason Jurowitz and a number of other people that you've sent my way. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. But anyways, it's just, it's always about, with Marshall and with that fantastic time we had is just, okay, well, now that this opportunity's done, where to?
Yeah.
Right. And fortunately, we have had an area that film is happening.
Yeah.
In Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
Not
all places.
Out of all places,
Yeah.
not having to travel to LA or Atlanta or New York.
That's
it's
right.
happening here.
Yeah.
But let's make sure it continues to happen here,
and
right?
I think you hit the nail on the head there because a lot of people fear now with the new AI and CGI and blah 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 and everything's gonna our mutual friend Andrew Caldwell had said, I think in this podcast, that LA can have that, Atlanta could have that, maybe New York can have that, but people are still going to want to make a good blue collar movie or period piece.
I mean, you can see it in
whatever here in
You
Buffalo.
can see it in the reaction to what's happening at the box offices.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
These big corporations, these big studios, they're trying to pump out all these money makers and sequels and brand names. Yep. And in the end, people aren't attending as much as often. But also the world's changing. Streaming is such a huge thing. Why would I want to go here to spend, because to me, the theater experience is always, to me, the ultimate experience of watching a film, right?
Yeah.
But it needs to be a good film.
Yes. It needs to be worth it.
It needs to be worth
Yeah.
it. And in the end, good films will always triumph.
Yes.
Through the money, through expectations. And that starts with not letting a computer do all the work. Yeah. It needs to have a human story.
Yeah.
Human stories will, boom. Even though like Christopher Nolan has proven himself as a director, but in the end, Oppenheimer was a biopic.
Yeah.
It was a human story told well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was kind of the epitome of like, if you tell the right story, people will come. Definitely. And that's true. Yeah. So exactly like Andrew said, like they can use AI in LA, right, in New York, and want to generate their extras or, create their story or their pitches or whatever that's the other thing is learning how to use AI correctly.
Yeah.
What I mean? Is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Using it as either a balance board or to help create creative pitches or something like that.
Right.
Good idea. Use technology created. Just don't let it encompass your human ability to do things, right? Yeah. Because you take the human out of it, people won't connect with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Without a soul, what?
No, exactly. It's the battle of souls. Yeah. It is true, though. It is the battle of souls, and souls recognize souls. Yeah. So in the end, it's important that even a place like Buffalo can tell human stories with souls in them. And if that's all we get to tell, that's exactly what we need to tell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And we'll corner the market on that.
Yeah. So we'll tell the smaller stories.
That's right.
Because they're going to have more meaning behind them.
Yeah.
And we have a city that is now, we have an amazing film community that has now cultured over the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah. And we have cities from outside of us looking at us. Correct. Big cities.
Yes.
Like Pittsburgh, like Cleveland, like Toronto, exactly.
We have this.
What's Buffalo doing?
Yes. And so through all this, hey, everybody's looking at us on camera because we have this tax credit that's coming through. So we got the politics side, we have the money side of things. So it means studios are going to come. It means people with bigger, pockets are going to come to Buffalo. But it's still important for us as local filmmakers and local film community to make sure that we continue to tell the smaller stories, the more human stories, because that is what's going to survive.
Yeah,
honestly.
100%. Yeah.
Even past when, because there's going to be a point in which these studios are going to either fail or just not make as money as they want, or pull out of places, or the tax credit eventually goes away. As long as we stay to our heart, which is make heartfelt, genuine movies, it won't go away.
Yeah, 100%. At least not for the next, I'm going to say 20 years.
Yeah.
No.
And especially because the access to making those films are a lot easier right now.
Yes.
Like our phones now have a picture quality that's incredible.
Yeah.
That from even 5 years ago, you could have never even thought about. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
10 years ago when we started this journey on Marshall, like the idea of we were casting still like in a room pre-2020.
That's right.
And
face
now everything was face to face, and now everything is, we need more and see it all, and you know what I mean? Like it's this oversaturation that is thrown in there.
Yeah.
So, but at the same exact time, there's stuff at this fingertips that were never there before. So if you were a creator, continue to create. Mm-hmm. Don't stop.
100%.
There's a keynote speech from South by Southwest, I think in 2015, by Mark Duplass. And it is an incredible speech. And I always show it to all my students. Yeah. Where he talks about...
I think I posted a clip of it and you said, hey...
It's like, I love this.
Yeah.
No, I show it to all my students whenever I teach. Is it talks about building your own Calvary. And like, the Calvary's not coming...
Yes.
It's time for you to build your own Calvary.
Exactly what we were saying before. Yeah,
exactly.
You have to do your own shit. You can't wait for shit to happen. No. You have to be proactive.
Find your niche of people.
Exactly.
Find your creatives.
That's so important too. I mean, to get the right team. That you mentioned that before too. And once you think you found the right team, maybe it's the right team for that moment.
Correct.
And
it could always adapt and change.
Exactly.
And stay collaborative, stay open,
you
and
have
let it
to be fluid. Yes.
And that, I think that's a great word for it.
Yes.
Having to stay fluid.
Yes.
Fluidity in this business is gigantic.
Yes.
And it's not something where I'm like, I never want to work with that person again. It's just life is fluid. So you have to remain fluid as a creative. With technology, with people that you know, you know what I mean? Like, it's just this constant learning experience.
And we both know people who are not so fluid.
Yeah, of course. I mean, with a yin, there's a yang.
Yes, so. And you can see, and those are the people that I learn from too, because you can see that if you don't change with the world that's changing, then you stay static and you kind of become irrelevant, and this curmudgeon who just yells at people online or whatever, I mean, and not to talk too much about the negative, but don't be that guy.
It comes down to your frame of mind, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, like, if your mindset is, I'm always serving to better myself in whatever you're trying to accomplish, then it means that you even look at the bad and learn from it, right?
Exactly.
I've been on sets where I haven't had the best assistant directors in front of me, or the best director, or the best producer, or the best moments like have happened, but it's still a learning curve for me to get through, because now I know
what you don't want.
What I don't want to
Exactly.
do, you know what I mean? Or what I don't think should be
100%.
said, or I don't, you know what I mean? So like, and any experience is a good experience in my point of view. Yeah. And if you have an opportunity, always seize that opportunity.
Absolutely.
And it might not be the best in the moment, but you're going to take something away from that moment.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. The worst situations I've learned the most from, like, I hate this get me out of here. And it, like you said, it made me realize what I don't want to do.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you had said something. We were talking before about using AI and how they can do that and we'll do this. And that's not to say that using AI is a bad thing.
No, it's not.
I fucking use it for this podcast,
And like I said, it's using the tools correctly, right?
Exactly.
It's not like I don't want to screw over every single actor out there by stealing their image and just copying and pasting them for the end of time.
Right.
Or I want to eliminate every single job on a movie set by just plugging in the computer what I want to see, a sequel to Jurassic Park, but is just like the original Jurassic Park, because that's what I want to see.
Yeah,
you know
like,
what I mean?
Hey, Chat GPT 27.
Godfather Part 4, whatever.
Make this movie for me.
New season of Breaking Bad, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yes, please, by the way.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that will be a thing, and there will be people who want that.
Yes. Need more?
And it will, thank you. And it will happen.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't all be about that. There is good AI technology.
Yeah, 100%.
There is,
use
ability
it to your advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
I say I use it for this, I use it to make like social media clips, because I don't have a social media person,
Yeah, but it helps a creator, right?
Yes.
So it's able to do things that are able to assist you.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, for like writing process, the idea of like using it as a bounce board, like a Chat GPT or something like that, where I have ideas and I'm able to bounce them and they're able to form them a little bit better.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, or differently, or bring up perspectives that I didn't, and it learns how I learn. You know what I mean? So it helps. There's technology in film that like helps you sync audio.
Yeah.
That helps eliminate ambulances coming by. You know what I mean? Like there's
hours of clipping and editing and clipping.
You know what I mean? Like there is good advantages to it.
Exactly.
It's just knowing how to use those tools. And like I just said,
it allows
before,
creators to be creators and create more.
A pitch deck for a new idea is so important, right? But if I can actually use that technology to my advantage to help give them an idea of what this world looks like and what this creativity is, sure. Like that sounds good to me. This is how I'm able to show what my vision could be. Exactly. A little bit crisper than just me photoshopping for hours or, just trying to draw it out or
100%. Yeah.
It's using it the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. Use it as a tool, not as a, means to an end.
Correct.
The Actorshpere podcast is brought to you by Bison Insurance. Do you have insurance? Everyone has to have insurance, right? Once you start adulting. I had insurance and I did it all myself. I went online and thought it was easy. Just, typed in all my information, got a quote, paid everything online, didn't talk to anyone. But then I was referred to Anthony at Bison Insurance. And he said, you know what, man? Let me just check out your insurance and give you a free quote and see if I can save you money. So I said, okay. And he came back to me with quotes on my homeowner's insurance, my car insurance, my motorcycle insurance, my everything. And he literally saved me thousands of dollars a year just by doing the work for me. It was easier than going online because all he did was make a phone call and give him some information, and he saved me thousands of dollars. I couldn't have done that on my own. So call Bison Insurance at 716-791-7475 for a free quote. Again, you can call or text 716-791-7475 at Bison Insurance, or go to insurancebison.com.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it's always just been a... try to keep creating, try to make opportunities happen.
Yeah.
And that was the part of also creating Casting Buffalo too.
Yeah.
Was Peter Johnson, Harry Lipsitz, and I kind of looked at each other and said, we're all trying to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. But what if we make it easier on ourselves?
Instead of competing
with
each other. Yeah.
And everyone has their own resources and their own set of skills. and do it together.
Yes.
So we decided, hey, let's make a company.
Let's make a super group boy band.
Yeah, pretty much. You know what I mean? And let's do it together. So we formed Casting Buffalo.
Yeah.
Pretty much in March of 2020, and then the world shut down within 3 days. So it was,
That's like this
a great
story.
idea, but a terrible idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it ended up being the right idea.
Of course.
And since then we've just been able to grow and work together, and we're still learning too. Of course. We always are. Every film and every project we take on, we're still learning.
Yeah.
But it's been a fantastic journey so far for Casting Buffalo, and for us we're trying, we're not, a lot of people will come and sit there and say, well, Casting Buffalo is, they're an agency. We're not an agency.
Of course.
We're a trinity of casting directors that have came together to form a company to help get you the work.
Yeah.
So we don't cost anything to you.
Right.
We are literally there to just find the opportunities for Buffalonians and actors and give them a chance to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
That's all we're about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're not taking 10% here or taking this. We're making the productions pay us to find you.
Right.
And we're just trying to get you paid and shown. That's
right.
it. We want to give you the opportunity to have your face forward for it. And that's what we've been about, and that was part of us creating the company is, what do we want to be? Do we want to become an agency? Do we want to do? No. Like, we are all about having Buffalo be seen, and which is exactly why we named it what it is. In the end, we are kind of liaisons, right? But in the end, we do not have the final say.
No, of course. I mean,
we have
present
nothing.
What you have, and in the best possible light, you give to the directors, producers,
the client, whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Whoever.
This is who we believe is the best. Here is also your requests.
Yes. But you also have to know what their vision is before you present them with all of these people and all these auditions.
And again, we're working with people.
Yes.
And people sometimes can change their mind.
Yeah.
Can be set in their ways.
The client, you mean?
Yeah. Can be set in their ways, or they are very extremely collaborative.
Yeah.
And are open to actually have conversations.
Yeah.
There is a corporate side of things that we are politically kind of playing in between, right? So for us, it's learning how to navigate and that world of making sure that we are serving our goal of casting Buffalo, but then also, delivering a story for a creator.
Right.
And for us, it's just as much work. You know what I mean? Like, it's us trying.
Well, that's the point I was trying to make too. Is like, people don't see the behind the scenes shit that you guys have to go through.
No, they just look at us and say, "Oh, you're probably calling the shots." It's like,
or that you're the gatekeeper, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that at all. It's like it's such a delicate balance.
It is.
Like, the politics and the finagling and the swooning of the client, or whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of time and energy that you guys have to focus on in order to really just keep the business afloat.
Yeah. And it's not only that, but making sure that Buffalo is respected too.
Exactly.
Within that too.
Yeah.
Making that our city is being served to the best ability.
Which brings me to what we were talking about earlier before we started recording, which is this new hashtag. Buffalo is more than background. Or what is it?
Buffalo is more than background. Yeah. And like I said, there was this hashtag that came out from local actors.
Yeah.
And I stood at it and stared at it and said, I agree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it isn't something where I agree with this hashtag.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that we should be the main character, and movies that come here should cast here
and take us seriously.
Take
Take the talented, super talented actors that we do have here seriously.
Of course. Like, and like I said, there is still just like everywhere else, there is a gigantic pot to pull from, right? We've got your back, you've got our back, and we can't be enemies to each other.
No, of course.
Right? Because
we have to be allies.
Because the thing is we have to be allies to make sure that Buffalo keeps rising.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
Like,
because you and I both have seen I call it the old Buffalo, where
yes.
The saying was, Buffalo, people in Buffalo are like crabs in a bucket. Do you remember that saying?
Yeah.
Where, if you put crabs in a bucket and one starts to climb out and towards freedom and bettering itself, the others pull it back down.
And that's not what this should be about.
In order for them to, yes.
We have to learn from that world.
Exactly.
And help, evolve into the idea of building each other up.
That. Yeah, exactly.
But like, again, it doesn't take much to get pulled back.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Into that frame of mind. So it's making sure that like we are starting a pipeline. We are creating this is the base. It's building towards for years. Everybody has to have their back and have to make it happen.
Right. And that's a huge reason why I'm doing this podcast too.
Exactly.
Because I want
to
get
the word out, right?
Yes, that everybody knows what's happening. Everybody knows what we're doing, what we're trying to do. I want people to meet people like you and listen to more than just a 5-minute or 30-second snippet of what you have to say. I want to introduce the greater community to not only my friends like you, but the people who are making Buffalo, the acting and entertainment and movie and film community move.
It's like listening to a networking opportunity, right?
Exactly.
It's just like you're networking it without even actually networking. But here's the idea of they're all accessible.
Yes.
Everyone that you've been able to put on this podcast is accessible.
Right. Yeah.
They're not beyond an Instagram message or, you know what I mean? Like finding out a way to contact them or anything.
A lot of the people that I've met that I've had on here was through an Instagram message.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So it's nothing that we are all just a bunch of creatives who want to create.
Yes.
And and that's why I loved from the beginning you talking about this podcast was the idea of like, great, here's a way to showcase people to hey, this is someone you might want to team with and collaborate with. Last year, we actually did an inaugural Casting Buffalo Actors Expo. Mm-hmm. And we had it at Rich's, and it was in August. And we had you there with the podcast talking to local filmmakers, local actors. Right. Johnny Abrahams came back in, it's for everyone. It's for crew. Yeah. It's for film makers. Yeah. It's for
family
content creators. Yeah. It's for families looking to just be creative.
Or support their family members.
Exactly.
Who want to be an entertainer.
Correct. Yeah. Learn more. Exactly. I want to learn more about what you do. Yeah. Right? Or want to do.
Yeah. Or, my child is really interested in the film industry.
I'd like to.
Where do we get started? Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that was the idea. That's why we have like schools there from, local, smaller, theater schools to learn from that, to acting studios, to, Buff State University, and you know what I mean, and schools that can help guide you through a pipeline of learning to become a storyteller through acting.
So this August, when is it?
August 3rd. Yeah.
We have the Casting Expo 2.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. It's going to be the second annual for the Casting Buffalo Actors Expo, and we're back. And the first year was an amazing success. We had over 400 attendees. Yeah. We had, between, I think it was just over 30 different vendors. We had all these different workshops you can go to, and we had panels and hear from different casting directors and hear from an actor who, Johnny Abrahams, who kind of got started and how he got started in the business, how he keeps going. Yeah. And now it's, okay, let's make it bigger and better. And then having local production companies that are smaller and trying to create themselves and having them there that might be casting you because listen, they want to create content, so why not have them there?
Exactly.
Greg Robbins with Robbins stunt team, they're going to be there. They're going to perform, but also like they're looking for new people because they're actively in film here.
Yes.
Working on movies that are currently happening. You know what I mean? They're there. They're a part of it. And that's the point, is making sure that everyone involved are current to the scene, right? So we're teaming with Film Neighbor Network in Boring Buffalo, and we're going to have photographers there for headshots.
Awesome.
Something that, like, headshots are not cheap, I'm sure, as you know.
No, yeah.
No, you know what I mean? Like, they are.
In fact, I am so cheap that I have not updated my headshots in way too long.
And that's why we never cast Paul. But I mean,
that's exactly why.
No, it's one of those things where it's like they are not cheap. When you get us all three in here,
yes,
we all have to wear.
Let's wear tuxedos.
Yes. It's making a thing. I want a disco ball hanging from the ceiling.
We can do that.
It's, like...
I have one.
I want black tie only formal.
Yes.
We need champagne.
Martinis, yes.
Yeah, martinis, champagne. Do the whole thing. And we can do that.
We'll make it a James Bond night.
We can do it for the official 1 year of Actorspere.
That's right. Yeah.
Make it a thing.
Yes. All right. It's on now. You heard it. Kyle, I love you, man. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
And until next time.
Absolutely.
All right, brother.
Talk to you guys all soon. See ya.
Yeah. The Actorsphere podcast is brought to you by Bison Insurance. Do you have insurance? Everyone has to have insurance, right? Once you start adulting. I had insurance and I did it all myself. I went online and thought it was easy. Just, typed in all my information, got a quote, paid everything online, didn't talk to anyone. But then I was referred to Anthony at Bison Insurance. And he said, you know what, man? Let me just check out your insurance and give you a free quote and see if I can save you money. So I said, okay. And he came back to me with quotes on my homeowner's insurance, my car insurance, my motorcycle insurance, my everything. And he literally saved me thousands of dollars a year just by doing the work for me. It was easier than going online because all he did was make a phone call and give him some information, and he saved me thousands of dollars. I couldn't have done that on my own. So call Bison Insurance at 716-791-7475 for a free quote. Again, you can call or text 716-791-7475 at Bison Insurance, or go to insurancebison.com.